and from Colorado and Ashland and Portland and Olympia, Washington, and how extraordinary this miracle of the internet and Zoom is for all of us to be able to be together in this way. So today, I'm sure all of us are feeling a little vulnerable because of this terrible tragedy of the invasion of the Ukraine by Putin and the Russian army. And so in that, I think it becomes even more important to not avoid the vulnerability and the pain that we all feel with spirituality, not use spirituality as a way to hide from it, but a way for the spirituality and our spiritual practice of Shabbat to be a buffer, to be a balance point, to remind us what Reb Zalman taught us about this beautiful expression from Lamentations, Nochach Panei Adonai. The awareness that we stand in the presence of the living God is one of the most important realizations we can install in our operative consciousness. God is always present. The question is, and I make it personal, how real is this for me? How present am I? We want to stand in that presence without opacity. Our work is to penetrate in meditation and in action to the very heart of being, Nochach Panei Adonai, of being truly present before God. So I hope with our prayers for the Ukraine, we can also be present for ourselves and before God as well. Because of my brothers and friends, because of my sisters and friends, please let me ask, please let me say, peace to you. L'man achai v'rei, l'man achai v'rei. Adabrana, adabrana, shalom bach, l'man bet Adonai Eloheinu, avak shatov lach, l'man bet Adonai Eloheinu, avak shatov lach. Please join me. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, 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 dai. Dai, dai, dai. This is the house of the Lord. I wish the best for you. This is the house of the Lord. I wish the best for you. And you know, Rabbi Jamie, we were speaking last night about how much of this melody, the melody was written by Shlomo Carlebach, but it really comes from the soil of Poland and the soil of the Ukraine. And so much of the heartland of Ashkenazic Judaism in Eastern Europe was really centered in the Ukraine. And our great teachings from the Hasidic Rebbes, who took the mysticism of Svat in the 16th century and made it accessible to the people, comes from the Ukraine. I don't want to forget that ever. I don't want to ever forget, as difficult as it was for the Jews in the Ukraine, that there's something in the soil and the air that led to a creativity that is still with us today. So we feel gratitude. Even with our hurt, we feel gratitude. What are we grateful for in our lives? Modeh ani, modah ani. Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך. One more time, Johnny. מודה אני לפניך מלך חי וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה. emunatecha. Just those last two words. Rabba emunatecha. Rabba emunatecha. You are believed in by God. Rabba emunatecha.
Rabba Munatecha might also translate as powerful is your Amen. The power to reflect back someone else's prayer and to echo it and expand it and extend it.
Beautiful.
The beauty of the places and the melodies that arise out of certain places is those environs reflecting back to us the blessing that arises, the music, the melodies that arise within us. And I want to offer this reflection and invite you to close your eyes and tune into your heartbeat and your breath. And this is a invitation in our prayer book, Asher Yatzar, that as we open up our hearts to prayer, we tune and align with the breath and the heartbeat and the openings and vessels of the body, the fragility of the body and its power, capacity to heal itself. Feel fragile heartbeat, breath becoming melody. Let's ingest the majesty of this body. Feel fragile heartbeat,
Feel fragile heartbeat,
breath becoming melody.
breath becoming melody.
Let's ingest the majesty
Let's ingest the majesty
of this body.
of this body.
Baruch atah asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah. Baruch atah asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah. Nekabim, nekabim, chalulim, chalulim. Nekabim, nekabim, chalulim, chalulim. Galui ve'yadua lifnei chisei kivodecha.
Fish levy, and there's name.
Galui ve'yadua lifnei chisei kivodecha she'im yipateach echad mehem O yisatem echad mehem she'im yipateach echad mehem O yisatem echad mehem אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אשר יצר את האדם בחוכמה. ברוך אתה אשר יצר ומפליא לעשות.
Amen. And for a moment, as we close our eyes, we feel closer to each other and closer to that which we call divinity and God. There's something all about, we'll be learning about later, all about clouds obscuring our vision, but when we close our eyes, we can feel ourselves deeply connected to one another. And so it is with Elohai Neshama, with our breathing, that there is a moment once in a while we reach where we don't feel like we are breathing, but we feel as if we are being breathed. And the Elohai Neshama is such a prayer that gives us this opportunity to realize the most beautiful level that we're not in control. That there's something in our biologies and something in nature and something in the universe that we call God that lives us, that sings us, that is a hearing that we hear, and that breathes us. Elohai Neshama Shinatata Bi Tehorahi Ata Berata Ata Yitzarta Ata Nefata Bi Ulhachazira Bi Lati Lavo Kol Zman Shaman Shaman Tekir Bi Modeh Lefanecha. I'll give thanks to you. Adonai Elohai Velohei Avotai V'Imotai, God of my ancestors, my mothers and my fathers. V'Ata Mishamra B'Kirbi, and you preserve her in me. Ribon Kol Hamasim, the revered one of all creations. Adon Kol Hanshamot, master of all souls. Baruch Atah Adonai, Baruchat Shechina, Hamachazir Nishamot Livkarim Meitim. Blessed are you, breath master, who restores life to where there is death.
Amen.
With this gorgeous sequence of blessings in the morning to really awaken parts of our body, to awaken our physical world, the gashmiut, the reality of our physical bodies to our spiritual bodies. And so this would be, if you wish to do movements and stand while Ayala, Zan and Shine and I do this chanting. I'll call out the theme of each one. And you can do some kind of little movement, whether you're sitting there or whether you're standing. So whenever you're ready, Ayala, we'll begin the morning sequence of morning blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesechvi bina, להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Amen.
Amen.
That was for understanding. Who gives the rooster understanding to distinguish day from night? Blessing for community.
ברוכת יחי העולמים, שעשני ישראל.
Who made me part of Israel.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שלא עשה לי עבד.
For freedom, who has not made me a slave.
Amen.
For being created in the divine image.
ברוכת יחי העולמים, שעשני כרצונו.
Who made me according to your will.
Amen.
For insight.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, פוקח עיוורים.
Who opens the eyes when we are blind.
Amen.
For our clothing.
ברוכת יחי העולמים, Malbisha Rumim.
who clothes the naked
Amen.
for our unbinding.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir hasurim.
Who frees the bound
Amen.
for staying straight.
Uchat yachei haolamim zokef kifufim.
Who strengthens the band
Amen.
for planetary awareness.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Okaretz al hamayim.
Who spreads out the earth over the waters
Amen.
for knowing where we're going.
Uchat yachei haolamim Hamechin mitzadei geveret.
Who makes firm my steps
Amen.
for satisfaction in everything we do.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasali kol tzarchi.
Who provides for all my needs,
Amen.
for strength in my life when I'm weak.
Uchat yachei haolamim ozer Yisrael b'gvora.
Who empowers Israel with strength,
Amen.
for beauty in our lives.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara.
Who crowns our people with beauty,
Amen.
for endurance.
Uchat yachei haolamim hanoten li ha'ev koach.
Who gives strength to us when we are weary,
Amen.
for the awakening of our consciousness and souls.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir shena me'anai utnuma me'afapai.
Who removes sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids.
Amen.
And please be seated if you'd like. Thank you. Originally, those blessings were done while we were still in bed. If you follow the sequence, it's like lying in bed and straightening up and standing up straight and then going into the washroom and washing our hands. It's all part of a wake-up sequence. It's a beautiful thing to memorize and try doing as a spiritual practice from getting out of bed to going into the bathroom. It's really beautiful.
So as students of Reb Zalman, the blessed memory, so both of our communities have tapped into this notion of the davening through four worlds. And we move from the Gashmiut to the physical world and these blessings of physicality to opening the heart with poetry and music. I'm going to start a call and response. I would love to hear your voices on Zoom. I'm going to invite you to unmute for the beginning of the song so we can hear each other a bit, and then it might make sense for you to mute again as we get the song rolling. And this is a psalm that invites us to transition into Psuke de Zimra. Page 175 in the Kol HaNeshama Siddur. Elecha. Your turn.
Elecha
Adonai Ekra. Vel Adonai et Chanam. To the beginning. Elecha Adonai Ekra.
Adonai
El Adonai et Chanam.
Elecha
Adonai Ekra
Adonai Ekra
El Adonai Etchanan Shema
Shema
Adonai
Adonai
Bechoneini Adonai Heye Ozeli Shema Adonai
Shema
Bechoneini
Adonai
Adonai Heye Ozeli הפכת מספרי לבחולי, פיתחת שקי ותזרני שמחה, למען יזמך כבוד, ולא ידום אדוני אלוהי, לעולם אודך. Let us transform our breath, our strife, our friction, in our sadness, our mourning, into ecstatic joy. Ashrei, Ashrei, Beitecha, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Beitecha. Oje hallelujah, Selah, Ashrei,
Ashrei
Yoshvei, Beitecha, Ashrei,
Yoshvei
Beitecha. Oje hallelujah, Selah, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Beitecha, Ashrei, Yoshvei, Beitecha. Oje hallelujah, Selah. Oje hallelujah, Selah. More and more and more we should give, we should offer, we can offer, have an opportunity for offering Hallel, hallelujah. And also Ode can be connected to the uniqueness, Leolam Va'ed, in the infinite and the particular. The uniqueness of us, that can offer something unique to this song. With my life and your love, I was born to adore. With my best and your breath, I will sing with my life and your love. I was born to adore. With my best and your last,
in your breath
I will sing, I will sing. Ya-na-na, 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 Hallelah, Hallelah, Bechayai, Bechayai, Azamra, Azamra, Beodi, Beodi, Hallelah,
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 Bechayai,
Bechayai,
Azamra,
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 Beodi,
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 with my life
with my life
and your love,
and your love,
I was born
to
to adore.
adore.
With my best
With my best
and your breath,
and your breath,
I will sing,
I will sing,
I will sing.
I will sing.
With my life
With my life
and your love,
and your love,
I was born
to adore.
with my best
With my best
and your breath,
and your
I
breath,
will sing,
I will sing,
I will
sing.
you will sing,
You will sing, will sing.
Amen. Beautiful, beautiful.
hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Psalm 150, a culmination of the book of Psalms. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah,
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Kol Hashema Tehaleya. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashema Tehaleya.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah,
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashema Tehaleya. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashema Tehaleya. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol Hashema Tehaleya. 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 Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Reb David, your mic is off.
So, what is it to be called to prayer? On this third rung, Rabbi Jamie was saying in the four worlds of our prayers, we go from our body to our hearts, and now we enter the realm of the mind, of a mindful awareness that there is this separation between us and nature, between us and each other, between us and God, and we're at a threshold. We now have the opportunity For this moment, we could step over that threshold into the chuppah and realize that we're at a moment of unification. So I invite you to stand if you're able, if you wish, or stand within yourself for this chant of the Baruch Hu that Ayala will lead, and I'll repeat after her.
Baruch Hu,
Baruch Hu,
dear one,
dear one,
Shekhinah,
Yachina,
holy name.
holy name.
When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. Baruch Hu,
Baruch Hu,
Shekhinah,
Shekhinah,
holy name.
holy name.
When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, former of light, creator of darkness, maker of shalom, creator of the whole. Yotzer or uvorei choshech, oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Former of light, creator of darkness, maker of shalom, creator of the whole. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hamorot. You bound in blessings, luminous one, former of the heavenly illuminations. We feel loved. We feel loved. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love. Embrace, touch, soothe, and counsel. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. Baruch atah Yah, habocher be'amo Yisrael, b'ahava.
Amen. So the Shema is not a prayer, right? It's Moses talking to Bnei Israel, but Moses is talking to us. That voice is coming to remind us through the millennia that we are all one, and how timely in this moment to have that reminder. So I invite Leah Kunzel. You chant this for us, please.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I was drinking from my hotel alongside us. Ve'havta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lefavecha v'b'chol nafshecha v'b'chol me'odecha You shall love Adonai with all your might, with all your soul.
Thank you, Leah.
Yes.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם נאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, ביתך ובשעריך, ובשעריך.
Sometimes we say things are not political when we really mean it's not partisan, that people on opposite sides of certain issues can come together at a certain moment, because everything we do has an implication that is political. Even our prayers can change the world, can take a dictator like Haman, can take a king like Ahasuerus and transform them in some way. So the anthem, of course, for our civil rights movement in our country from African Americans was "We Shall Overcome." And today, of course, we sing this on behalf of the Ukrainians who are praying to overcome the invasion of their homeland, of their land. So yes, it's political. And at the same time, we connected to our story to when we were slaves in Egypt, and we celebrated our freedom, our liberation from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, and we got across that sea that we thought we couldn't get across, and we sang Mi Chamocha Be'elam Adonai. So one, we shall overcome, is hope, and Mi Chamocha is a celebration of success. We sing them simultaneously. Anu nitgaber, Anu nitgaber, Anu nitgaber, Yom echad, Amod belibi, Ani מאמין, אנו נתגבר יום אחד. We shall overcome, we shall overcome. Hold Ukraine in your heart. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, Ani Ma'amin, that we shall overcome someday. Imagine, God willing, waking up to the news after Shabbos and seeing the Russian troops withdrawing, saying, I'm so sorry to my Ukrainian brothers and sisters. What a mistake we made. We want nothing more than peace. What a dream that would be, huh? Let's envision it. Mi chamocha be'elam Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef elem, ya yimloch li'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Ka'al Yisrael, Ka'al Ukraine, Ka'al Yoshvei Tevel.
Amen.
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 We're going to take a few minutes now and just, you could shut your screens off if you wish, or keep them on. Stand if you're able, or sit, and just do a few minutes of silence, of meditation that we call the Amidah. This amazing prayer that just invites us to go deep inside. On Shabbos, there's 7 prayers for our ancestors. I think of my ancestors going back hundreds of years in the Ukraine, for God's power that redeemed my ancestors and brought them out of the Ukraine, for God's holiness in our lives, for Shabbat, just this moment to reflect, for the Shekhinah, for the presence of God that's always with us, for gratitude that sometimes I forget to say thank you, and of course, for the greatest gift of all, for Shalom. So I'll keep these on the screen one by one, and we could do the prayers on our own. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. May my words be your words, spoken inside of me. May they be the words you would say using my voice.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Oh, say Shalom. Oh, say Shalom. Oh, say Shalom Bimrama. Osa Shalom Osa Shalom Osa Shalom Bimromeha. Ose Shalom Ose Ose Shalom Bimroma. Bo nase Shalom Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yisrael. Bo nase Shalom Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. Make peace, peacemakers. Make peace, idol breakers. Broken pieces come together, made whole. Make peace, peacemakers. Make peace, idol breakers. Scattered people come together, find home. Bo nase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yisrael. Bo nase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. The phrase Oseh Shalom, you can pronounce it the same way and have two different meanings. Maker of peace, Oseh Shalom, or Oseh Shalom with a yud, makers of peace, meaning us. Oseh, can you see by the dawn, early light, a place where peace instead of bombs can take flight? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn, early light, a nation's might measured by people's rights? Bo nase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yisrael. Bo nase Shalom, Shalom Aleinu. Shalom Al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. So let us say Amen.
Amen.
Amen, amen.
Amen, amen.
Amen, amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
So I'd like to, look for ways in the month of Adar to find reasons to celebrate. Sometimes we have to look harder than others. On this onset of a new month, Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, thought we'd extend our Rosh Chodesh celebration to include a bit of Hallel in this service, the additional songs and psalms and passages that are offered on special occasions like a new moon. Psalm 118 is broken up into multiple parts in the traditional Hallel formula. I'm going to read some excerpts from a translation I've been working on. Grateful, silent breath of life, voice your thanks. Ki leolam chasto, that loving deeds endure. What say you, Yisrael? Share your seeker's song, Ki leolam chasto, that loving deeds endure. And what say you, house of I will sing? Play your peacemaker's song, Ki leolam chasto, that loving deeds endure. And what say you, witnesses of wonder? Announce amazement to the world, Ki leolam chasto, that loving deeds endure. Min hametzar karatiya. When a narrow, feral mind tries to hide what's true and kind, put pride aside, let wonder open wide the eyes. Min hametzar karatia anani b'merchavya. Min hametzar karatia anani b'merchavya. Ta-da-da-da, 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 ta-da. When a narrow, feral mind
tries to hide what's true and kind, put pride aside as a wonder opens wide the eyes. When a narrow, feral mind tries to hide what's true and kind, put pride aside as wonder opens wide the eyes.
Ta-da. Min hametzar karatia anai b'merchavya. Min hametzar karatia anai b'merchavya. Da-da.
Can you get in, Mo?
It said the stone that the builders refused will come to be the head cornerstone. It said the stone that the builders refused will come to be the head cornerstone. Even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. Even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. It said the stone that the builders refused will come to be the head cornerstone. It said the stone that the builders refused come to be the head cornerstone. It said even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. Even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. It said the stone that the builders refused habonim will come to be the cornerstone. It said the stone that the builders refused habonim will come to be the cornerstone. I came here as a builder. Now I'm feeling like a stone. Ooh, do, 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 do. Won't you tell me as the builder? Oh, now, the things people refuse are the things that they should choose. Do you hear me? Hear what I say? Say the stone that the builders refused will come to be the head cornerstone. It said the stone that the builders refused has come to be the head cornerstone. Even maasu. Even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. Even masu habonim haitale rosh pina. Odcha, I get it now. A humble response arouses gratitude, a gratitude that could save me from myself. Even maasu. A skipped over stone sinks not. The one the builders rejected in haste later takes its place as the head cornerstone. Each consonant and vowel in speech and script, every particle in wave, in time, space, and soul, this is it. Such a wonder to behold. Zehayom. This is the day. Each and all rolled into one. Let us be glad and rejoice in it.
Amen.
Amen. Healing prayer, Reb. Yeah. So, I think along with this gorgeous, gorgeous service this morning, this beautiful music, Reb Zalman Alav Shalom used to say, sometimes we say our prayers to God like God is our cosmic butler. Like, please God, let's make peace in the world and bring healing to her and healing to him. But on a deeper, deeper level, our ancestors from the Ukraine, the Hasidim, taught us that it's not so much we're asking God to do this and that, but we're activating that spark of God that's in each of us. And when I say from deep within the home of my soul, now let the healing begin, it's not so much you, God, outside of me to bring the healing, but it's to activate that place inside myself that maybe we'll call a friend or bring some food to somebody who's ill or drive someone to the doctor, that I am responsible for helping to bring that healing to that person. So let's take a moment, if you wish to call out the names of people you're praying for their healing. You can call out the names and then go back on mute or type their names into the chat. We'll just take a moment before we start the chant to call out the names of those you're praying for healing for.
Margalit Batsara.
Sue Morningstar, Rabbi Emmanuel Ben David, Rachel Palin, Rav David Ben Chana Vishmuel.
For all those in the Ukraine who are injured, from deep within the home of my soul, now let the healing begin. Anna Elna Rafana La, Anna Elna Rafana La. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds. Ehya Shekhinah. Heal our bodies, open our hearts, awaken our minds. Ehya Shekhinah. Rabbona Shalom, may each of us be activated to be agents of healing in the coming days. For the people that we know who are ill, may we continue to sing for them, sing to them, pray for them, pray with them, be agents of your healing. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim, and we say, Amen. Rabbi Jamie, I love your lyrics and your melodies. It's so beautiful. I love what Zoom is also doing, that we can have these communities. We have like representatives of 3 or 4 synagogues here, and we learn from each other so much. We inspire each other, and so it's just wonderful to be together and just absorb each other's the neshamas, the souls of our communities together.
Thank you. Amen. That we take some time to do a little Torah and do some back and forth, and also invite input from the group. And before I do, I want to mention the part of the bridge, right? The narrow but profound bridge between our communities is sitting next to me. Laura Berman got a lot of inspiration from your community, and we're so blessed that you're sharing her with us, and want to thank her for coming up with the idea of doing this joint service and expanding the Mishkan, the sacred space and circle. This week we read the parsha that concludes the book of Exodus, Parshat Pikudei. And it begins with an accounting of all the details of the items that were brought and how they were assembled and who brought them and who assembled them, the weights and measures of the silver and the gold and how it was put together in the construction of this Mishkan. And then the Mishkan is set up and the divine presence is experienced, is felt. So we came up with the idea of each of us choosing a verse, and both of us looked to the last chapter when you have this dramatic coming together of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And I'm looking also from in a passage from Exodus chapter 40. And the verse reads as follows. I'm going to get my glasses on. Vayakom et hachatzer saviv lamishkan velamizbeach. Vayiten et masach sha'ar hachatzer. Vaychal Moshe et hamlacha. And Moses set up the enclosure, the chatzer, around the tabernacle, the Mishkan, and around the altar, the Mizbeach, and put up the screen or mask for the gate of the enclosure. And when Moses had finished the work, the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the presence of the divine filled the tabernacle. When Moses finished the work, Vaychas he'anan et ohel moed, uchvod Adonai malei et hamishkan. The glory, the presence of the divine. So, how does the divine come to be revealed in our midst? This highlights, these verses highlight a paradox for me that is emphasized by our Kabbalistic tradition in the notion that we reveal as we conceal. I think it's Oscar Wilde who has a quote something like, a man is never so much himself as when he's wearing a mask. That's something about the covering and the division or the veil or the parochet or the covering on the ark. So much of the details of the construction of the Mishkan emphasize a covering or a curtain or a division, a separation. And these are the setting up of these separations, these coverings. And I love that the masach in Hebrew, which is translated as, enclosure, is in English mask, masach. Sounds very much the same. And as we prepare for Purim and think about what is all this I was being asked this morning, why all the costumes and the revelry around Purim? I mean, what's the point? So the notion of concealing ourselves allows for perhaps an anonymity that reveals and enables us to reveal a part of ourselves, or reveals a deeper part of ourselves to one another and to our own inner eye. And maybe it's a reminder. There, a teacher of mine, Art Green, says that when he recites the Shema, and it was such a beautiful recitation this morning, that we have this name of the divine written into the Shema twice. And we don't pronounce the Yud He Vav He, the word, but we use a different pronunciation. Sometimes we use Yah, sometimes Adonai. And Rabbi Green says that every time he recites the Shema, he's striving to hold the dissonance, the paradox, that he is naming God, but not using the name, that he's masking God with another name, because the most intimate name cannot be seen. right, is intangible. So every time we recite the Shema, we're reminded of the limits of our powers of comprehension. Another way to say that is we're reminded that everything we see is our projection, is a mask that we put onto one another, ourselves, the world, and certainly God. To claim that the mask that we are, the projection we are putting onto the world, or certainly God, is God, that's the definition of idolatry. So a daily reminder, a twice daily reminder that all the so-called truths that we project onto ourselves and the world are simply that, our projections, constructions that enable us, they're not purposeless, they enable us to perceive what is imperceivable, what is beyond our grasp, as Abraham Joshua Heschel teaches, within our reach, but beyond our grasp. So when we set up sanctuaries, when we strive to build holy community, when we engage in Torah, when we celebrate Purim, let us don our masks with a wink, recognizing that this is one of our many masks, and may we support one another in the skill in both the donning and the removal of our masks, so that we can be and encourage in one another our authentic living selves, and we won't be thrust into unnecessary conflict and war because of a projection of a mask that we deem as absolute. Reb David, I'll pass the Torah baton to you.
Wow. Wow. How inspiring. How inspiring. Thank you so much, Rabbi Jamie. Reb Zalman, used to say sometimes he'd get up and do his morning davening and he would say, okay, Rabbona Shalom, okay, God, what mask do you want to wear today? I see you want to wear the mask of Reb Zalman today. So God says, I'll put on the mask and you be my eyes and you be my voice today. So how beautiful. Well, my verse kind of really is uniquely different and very complementary to yours. I'm going to do just a screen share. These are the last verses of the book of Shemot, of the book of Exodus. And I'm going to focus on the last verse, but I'll read the English verses because it's going to be all about clouds and fire and obscurity and that which we see. So whenever the cloud ascended above the Mishkan, that's the portable tabernacle, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys, okay? The cloud has to ascend and then the people go. But if the cloud did not ascend, then they did not journey till the day that it ascended. Ki anan Adonai al hamishkan yomam ve'esh tihiyah laila bo le'ene kol beit Yisrael b'chol masehem. For the cloud of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, this name of God that Rabbi Jamie was referring to that we don't pronounce, was upon the Mishkan by day, and there was fire, Eish, by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel in all their journeys. And for those of you who know the Hebrew, I want you to just take a look at the word anan, which is cloud, and eineh, which is sight. And this is where I'm going to be sharing from this particular point of view. You see, for centuries, let me just shut the screen share off for a second. For centuries, scholars have considered the possible connection between the Hebrew words for cloud, anan, and sight, eineh. Just as in English, the Hebrew word for cloud is used to mean both a physical cloud and the metaphorical cloud meaning obscure or unclear. We say we have cloudy vision, both in English and in Hebrew. Or when two people understand each other, they are said to see eye to eye. And there is reason to think that the biblical writers did not see this association, did see that there's no reason to think that the biblical writers did not see this association in these two words. The Gesenius lexicon reminds us that anan, meaning cloud, was also used in the Bible to mean divination. This is fascinating. Were the shapes of the clouds used as a means of divination in biblical times? We don't know. The great Hebrew etymologist, Dr. Ernst Klein, doesn't think so, but he associates the word anan to ana, an Arabic word meaning appearance, which once again brings in the possibility that the sight of an eye is associated with both cloud and possibly divination. The kavod Adonai, the glory of God, the presence of God, appeared to the Israelites in the cloud, and it is this aspect of God that guided the people in the wilderness. The people camped and traveled based upon the signs God gave them through the ascent and the descent of this cloud. The Israelites might have known how to read the clouds. Maybe they learned how to respond to that which obscures them, the clouds, from making clear-sighted decisions as they journey forward in the wilderness. Can't make a clear-sighted decision? Pause. When their sight was obscured by cloudy uncertainty, they were not to journey. So now I'm going to turn things a little bit on its head. Rather than it being seen as a negative that they couldn't journey, maybe, just maybe, there was something profound in pausing. The directive to move or rest during the Exodus was communicated by the ascent and descent of this magical cloud. Psychologically, maybe God was telling the Israelites that the cloud of their uncertainty and doubt was obscuring their sight, and that at these times they must not travel because the cloud, uncertainty, and doubt must ascend before they can move forward. Okay, now here's where we turn it around. Have you ever walked in a misty, foggy field or a forest with a friend? Do you remember how quietly your friend could speak and her voice was audible 100 feet away? Fog is an excellent carrier and transmitter of sound. Yet as sound is carried, sight is limited. In the midst of a fog, we say we're in a fog when we can't think very clearly. In nature, fog decreases the sense of sight, but amplifies the sense of hearing. In the Torah, Moses doesn't say to the Hebrews, "See, O Israel, take a look at this, O Israel," but "Shema Yisrael, listen, O Israel," as if sound were the preferred sense through which to experience the divine. There is a mysterious power in limiting sight in order to increase hearing. And of course, in our tradition, it's our custom to, when we're saying the Shema, we close our eyes. The mystery seems to have to do with what we perceive as being near and far. Just as the fog conducts sound and obscures sight, so sound seems to bring close that which is actually far. Try listening to somebody you care for speaking with your eyes open. The words you hear may be inspiring and beautiful, but sight creates a sense of reality of your separation from that which is outside of you. At the beginning of our service today, Rabbi Jamie several times actually invited us to close our eyes. When we listen to somebody with our eyes closed, something mysterious happens to our depth perception. It's more difficult to discern how far away the person is to you without your eyesight. If you've ever been led in a guided meditation by somebody with a soothing voice, or when you listen to music with your eyes closed, it can seem as if the words and melody are coming from inside of you rather than from the outside. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach alav Shalom used to say, when we kiss each other, our eyes automatically close. We want to see ourselves inside each other. Maybe the message that the Torah seems to be saying is that when the cloud is not ascended, when it is upon the Mishkan, there's no need to journey. Since the Anan, the cloud, created a transcendental sense of unity among the people, enabling them to really listen and hear. Shema, really hear the voice of the Holy One. I can imagine thousands of years ago today that a cloud in the desert is a protective barrier. It is often a welcome sign holding the promise of rain in dry lands. It is no wonder that the extended meaning of the word cloud in Hebrew and mine has to do with cover or protection. God appears in the cloud, and the cloud is indicative of the resting place of God's presence. Metaphorically, we could say that God appears within the fog of obscurity, when our hearing is amplified and we are humbled by uncertainty. We all want certainty in our lives, I certainly want certainty when it comes to the politics today of what's going on in the world and the invasion of the Ukraine. I want certainty. But I'm forced, as you are, as we all are, to live in uncertainty. When we think we are clear about something, our eyes are open and we become rational and a bit separate from the divine voice speaking to us. When we are a bit lost and unclear, as I am, maybe there's a greater opportunity for me, for you, to sense the presence of the divine glory. When we think we need God less because there is clarity in our lives, but when something obscures our vision, we are drawn closer to the divine. There is no longer a need to travel. The journey is over. We've reached our destination, even if only temporarily. Finally, a word about the fire. The fire at night, listen to this, made the cloud perceptible. The fire at night makes the cloud perceptible. Without the fire, we wouldn't be able to see the cloud. So the fire makes the cloud perceptible so that the Israelites would know not to journey. What a paradox. Listen to this. A cloud obscures vision, and the light of the fire makes the objects perceptible. But here we have the fire at night making that which obscures vision, the cloud, visible. In other words, we need both to experience uncertainty when the cloud has descended, but we need to see and honor our own uncertainty as well. So I want to finish just with a little blessing to all of us that we're all feeling uncertainty in the world today. We feel uncertainty in certain parts of our lives, and I want us to take a look at it, just to try to see it as a possible blessing in our lives, that we're forced to pause. Don't move forward. Sit still. Hear the voice. Hear the voice of God. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Wow, amen. Just as Laura's preparing to do a song, and we invite folks to put comments in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute. And while you do, I'm going to just do a visual. I'm going to take my computer outside because it is particularly cloudy, foggy here in Evergreen right now. So we can use that as a visual.
And I'm going to let everybody know, Rabbi Jamie, as Laura's getting ready and you're going outside, what we're going to be doing next is that Rabbi Jamie and I are going to have a little bit of a dialogue about renewal and Reconstructionist Judaism, Reform Judaism, what's happening in the Jewish world with these movements and denominations. And I'm looking outside for those of us in Ashland here. It's a little bit foggy here too, isn't it? Look at the sky. Wow. Okay. Oh, beautiful, Jamie. Look at that. Oh, gorgeous. Send some of that snow over here. But yes, it's very cloudy. Is it cloudy where you are, Cerise?
Yeah, looks like maybe a little more rain, hopefully.
God willing. Beautiful, Jamie.
What a blessing to be together in this way. I always am just more and more grateful for technology.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all in the same room together. Really feel it. So I think a lot about what we want to see in the world and how we really have to start with ourselves and having this body to house all the peace and love and things that bring us greater connection. And we've got to always start there. And I always practice seeing how big I can get inside my body. We can sing this one together. And there's a part, some of you may have heard it, but it's an affirmative part of this song that says, I am your sanctuary, I am yours. So seeing the divine and your God and your relationship to the great love as, handing ourselves over. Oh, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I am a living sanctuary for you. Sing with me. Oh, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I am a living sanctuary for you. Oh, and I am your sanctuary. I am yours. Well, I am your sanctuary. I am yours. And the Hebrew is Vasuli Migdash V'shachanti betocham Vasuli Migdash V'shachanti betocham Vasuli Migdash V'shachanti betocham Vasuli Migdash V'shachanti betocham. With thanksgiving, I am a living sanctuary. I am your sanctuary. I am a sanctuary for you.
Amen. Thank you, Laura B.
Oh, I don't recognize it. Usually I'm Laura Berman.
All right, Laura Berman. So today, Rabbi Jamie and I, we're going to just have a little dialogue, and we will invite you at a certain point to kind of join in, because there's something kind of big, this Mishkan, this sanctuary that Laura was singing about. We seem to be building a new Mishkan in Judaism. I'm calling it Zoom Shul, but this is not going to stop. I noticed, Rabbi Jamie, in your beautiful shul there, you've got two big TV screens in the upper right and the upper left, and we dared to do that too this year. We haven't gone back to live services yet, but we dared to bring it. I felt like I was in Sodom and Gomorrah, bringing a TV screen into the sanctuary, and there we are in a new age of not just the TV, but the Zoom age. It's not going away. We're going to continue, as I'm sure you are, to be holding live services and Zoom, this hybrid that the Rabbanu Shalom, that God has given us this, through the tragedy of the pandemic, the opportunity to grow our shuls. And so that's just my kind of opening statement, that there's something new going on. There's something big going on. There is a paradigm shift, as Reb Zalman called it. Something big is going on. And at the outer edges especially, and I consider Reconstructionism and reform and renewal, really we're on the outer edges, and so we're doing all this experiments with new liturgy and new lyrics and new melodies. How dare us, right? Bring in jazz and the blues in our singing, and something big is going on.
Indeed, and part of the hope of opening up this space is for folks who would like to learn a little bit more about a Reconstructionist approach and this congregation, and for those who are familiar with Reconstructionist approach and want to learn a bit more about Jewish renewal and the Havurah modalities. So invite your questions about those movements generally. And yeah, the spaces that we're constructing for community are changing. They've always changed, and seems like a particularly profound and accelerated forms of change. Our screens here in the sanctuary were initiated by a church group that from the first year of the design of the building had expressed interest in sharing space with us. Congregation Beth Evergreen met for almost 20 years at a local Methodist church, United Methodist Church. The former pastor and I are hopefully going skiing together on Monday. It's supposed to be a good snow day. And when Beth Evergreen acquired the land and built this building, so another church group approached us and said they wanted to be a part of it. And they had part of their practice was to project the lyrics and songs. So not until, shortly before COVID, did we talk about using the church's equipment and the church stopped meeting here. So the expansion and the use of the projections came around adding music services and lyrics that weren't in our prayer book. But one of the aspects that is distinguished perhaps about Jewish life, well, maybe an extension of is learning from and borrowing from the communities in our midst, and being less reactionary. Like we have to do it differently.
Right. Right. I just want to point out too that even, for example, Jamie is still calling the movement that he was ordained in Reconstructionist, but they've changed their name from a noun to a verb. They're now called Reconstructing Judaism. In other words, it's not an end game. It's not an end, but it's just it's God as a verb. So Reconstructing Judaism means that the movement itself is always changing. Isn't that right, Jamie?
Absolutely, yes. The institution is called, so the movement is still called the Reconstructionist movement. Hopefully the word movement gets enough verb in it. But the institution, which is now a combined body of the group that organizes the synagogues that are affiliates and the Rabbinical College and the Rabbinical Association, have sort of merged into a new institution called Reconstructing Judaism. I see that Hallie has offered a question in the chat about the difference between Reconstructionist and Renewal Judaism. And I'll start on that piece, I guess, anecdotally. When I went to rabbinical school now in the late 90s, it was the center, Philadelphia, and Philadelphia was a center for both Reconstructionist, Reconstructing Judaism, and Jewish renewal. Reb Zalman was there and teaching at the time, and in fact, in the one generation of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, the president of the college invited the people in the country who he thought were making the sort of doing the most moving and shaking, the innovative things. Reb Zalman was invited to be a professor at the Rabbinical College along with Arthur Waskow. And
Art Green.
Well, Art Green came a bit later, but yes, and so there was some differences in cultural approaches in terms of the Reconstructionist community, which had to, at that time especially, was relatively, well, let's say, intellectual and rationalist approach. Where Reb Zalman and Arthur Waskow and the sort of beginnings of the Jewish renewal, beginnings of Aleph, had a more experiential and we'll say explicitly mystical approach. And so when they stopped teaching at the Rabbinical College because of the cultural clash, they formed Aleph. They formed the sort of beginnings of the Jewish renewal movement. So To my mind, the Reconstructionist and renewal movements share a common root and seed, even as they integrate maybe different dispositions as the sort of founders. And many of my colleagues who were Reconstructionist rabbis went on to become leaders of the Jewish renewal movement and continue to do so now. But I think one of the things we're noticing, and Reb David and I were talking about this last week when we spoke, is that the non-Orthodox movements or branches of Judaism have, in the last 20 years or so, become closer and closer together, both in terms of ideology and sharing insights and wisdom. You can go to a conservative movement congregation and hear them quote Reb Zalman and Mordecai Kaplan, and you can go to a renewal congregation and see a very traditional service, and that looks a lot like what you might find in and then reform melodies, of course, and teachings permeating the movements. So these movements are coming together, not just in ideology, but also in some ways in form, as we find the kind of music that works and the approachable leadership styles, both David and I leading with guitar, Reform congregations doing away with the organ for the most part and integrating guitar, and using a more communitarian, egalitarian approach, which is one of the things that united the renewal and the Reconstructionist movements from the onset of this sort of really a democratic, ground-up model of organizing community. The Mordecai Kaplan talked about the tradition and the rabbi having a vote but not a veto in decisions in community, which perhaps contrasted it early on to the reform and conservative communities, which used a more sort of hierarchical decision-making structure typically. I'll do a baton pass to you, David.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, look, the Jewish people, we've always had a reconstructionist reform and renewal movement. We just didn't label it that way. If you study the first century, second century, we had all these, they called them sects, sects. And the sects with different approaches. There were the hippie mystics called the Essenes, and they went out into the wilderness to daven. And then there was the priesthood and the Sadducees and the Pharisees that led to the rabbinic movement. All these different sects demonstrated our diversity. Sadly, in Judaism today, and as it's always been, sometimes we don't celebrate our diversity. We make one movement competing against another. Reconstructing is better than reform, is better than renewal, is better than conservative. In the Orthodox world, too, you have all these different Haredi, ultra-Orthodox, and modern Orthodox. And I know Reb Zalman, Jamie, was trying to teach us so much that we're like members of the orchestra. We each have our own different instrument to play. And he applied this to the other religions as well. Buddhism and Hinduism and Christianity we're all instruments in the orchestra. And just like your synagogue has absorbed the use of the TV screens from the church that was there before, we've always been absorbing from Christianity and Islam, and the other two monotheistic faiths have been absorbing from us. We just didn't admit it. We just didn't acknowledge it. And now I guess with social media, the masks are off. You can't hide it anymore. The Sanctuary song that Laura sang originated in Tennessee from a liberal, a progressive evangelical church. Oh Lord, prepare me to be your sanctuary. It's sung in many churches. And so the beauty of diversity is not that it's every group is made for us, but that we're made for every group, that I could come to your shul and feel totally at home, even if I don't know this particular melody that you wrote or somebody in your congregation wrote. We're absorbing and learning from each other, and I think, God willing, we'll start celebrating each other in all the different movements. We need modern orthodoxy. We need the Hasidim. They need us. And when we can acknowledge that, then the work that we're doing, Marcia Prager called us a fringe movement, right? That renewal and reconstructionist Judaism, we're on the fringe, and we are. We're absorbing stuff from the outside world and bringing it in and seeing if it works. So I think we're at a wonderful time in our history, because we can't avoid seeing each other. There used to be a joke, Jamie, I'm sure you've heard it, but the question was, how does a Reconstructionist address God? And the answer was, to whom it may concern, right? In other words, it was a very early Reconstructionist Judaism was rational and intellectual. So, dear God,
and polite.
And polite. And renewal we're wild. Renewal it started arose from the Havurah movement and alternative hippies, and so we need the wild approach, and we need the rational approach.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I want to invite folks from the Zoom to chime in with a comment or a question. Yes, I see Lauren. Go ahead. Don't forget to unmute. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, please, Lauren.
So I have a long history with all of this, but what you did today with the talking of being the sanctuary and listening with your eyes closed, it's always been the music. It's the thing that I could never have heard a melody before, and suddenly it is in my soul. It was the first time I heard David, or Reb David, excuse me, and Reb Aryeh of blessed memory. I was one of those who said, I'm done with Judaism. I'm done with this political hierarchy, male dominated. And I was really, really kind of in a vacuum, in a spiritual vacuum. And it was the music that brought me back. And the music brings me back every single time with my eyes closed, because I see better that way. And I just want to thank you for the incredible music today and the incredible teachings. There's a lot going around in my head right now. Hopefully I'll send you the email I've been thinking about to send you, Reb David. But with all of the teachings of the last month, there's this whole idea of this incredible community and learning from it. All comes back to that. It's that music. Thank you for letting me babble.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And it's so true, because music it's a universal language, even if it's not the language that, even if it's not the melodies we necessarily grew up with. I grew up with Ashkenazic Jewish music that really came from Eastern Europe. And then suddenly comes Debbie Friedman, and she's suddenly taking American indigenous music, at least Anglo-American, which is folk music, and taking liturgy and putting it. This was breakthrough work Debbie Friedman did. It can't go, unacknowledged. She took American folk music and made it liturgical, and a lot of us have been following in her footsteps since then. So yeah, melody is that universal language, and nowadays, we're bringing in the Mizrahi, the Jews from Arab lands and Morocco and those great melodies from Iraq and Syria, and bringing them in to mainstream Ashkenazic music. Very cool what's going on. Anybody else have a comment? Daniel Cohen, I don't know if you're kidding. When Daniel writes, I do not love those other melodies and hope we could stick to the Jewish melodies. I think that's a Purim thing he's writing there. I'm not sure, but it's pretty funny. It's true. We used to think these are let's stick to Jewish melodies, right? Daniel, you were kidding, right?
No, maybe not.
He's not kidding. Okay, it's just me. Whatever Jewish melodies mean, right? We'll have to discuss that. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Please just unmute yourself and feel free. Anybody? Because, you leave Rabbi Jamie and I alone, we'll be talking for the next 30, 40 minutes here. So the world is changing in a beautiful way, Jimmy. And, we're acknowledging Buddhism brings us meditation that we always had, but the Buddhists are teaching us how to meditate again. And indigenous Native Americans are teaching us about our connection to the earth. So we're bringing in stuff from the outside world, just as the outside world is absorbing our wisdom, It's very, very cool to see. And there's friction sometimes.
Yeah, the language that Mordecai Kaplan offered, of course, is this notion of living in multiple civilizations at once.
Right.
And that intersection, well, being on the fringe, right? Being a fringe movement, being as Jews, we're a fringe movement, right? In the world, that we have this unique capacity then to bridge cultures, and that in those places there's such fertility and diversity that occurs, right? That's the cross fertilization that makes possible new species and enables evolution, right? On a biological level, on a cultural level, on a spiritual level. That's where the magic happens on those front lines. And yeah, so just invite, what we're borrowing from the best of American civilization. So some of us may not like the incorporation of some contemporary American music, but you probably like the notion of egalitarianism and democratic decision making, and environmental awareness and concern, which isn't necessarily inherent to the tradition that our grandparents, Jewish grandparents from Ukraine, grew up with. We draw from, as Kaplan would say, the best of each civilization, bring them together, and in that way, like Jacob, breeding his herd, create the most fruitful and bountiful life that we can offer.
Beautiful. All right, final comments, anybody?
Yeah, shalom, everyone. So I love the fact that there's this tent of meeting, that there is a place for meeting each other, and that kind of cloud of separation can be lifted. And we can really see each other and respect each other for who we are, what we are. I think that's an amazing spiritual place that we find ourselves in today. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for the conversation. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Manny. And because the world is smaller because of media, not only can we not avoid each other, but we can't help but acknowledging each other, how much we've absorbed from each other. As I was saying before, Judaism has absorbed so much from Sufism and Christian mysticism, and Christianity has absorbed so much from Judaism and Islam as well, that we can't avoid but acknowledging that, well, this is where it's from. So I really, I want to thank each of us for being part of that diversity and that celebration of new melody. As Lauren was saying,
one of your Magidas was going to speak. Is it? Yeah, please. Cerise.
Manny, you made me think that camped around the Mishkan, before we're different sects of Judaism, we're different tribes, like 12 different distinct energetic collections of folks around that one Mishkan. So Manny, thank you for that. It brought that to my mind.
Exactly. 12 tribes. We're meant to be diverse right from the beginning. Thanks for that reminder, Cerise.
And Manny's comment made me think of a extension of your teaching, Reb David, about when our eyes have a tendency to see the distance between us, to exacerbate that, right, sense of distance. And yet on Zoom, I can look at, like, how many of us? 29 of us at once, or more, because some of us have more than one person on a screen. So it's in this case, right, technology enables me to use my eyes to see the connections between us, just separated by a small black line around your box, right? So very nice. Well, let's pause and offer a prayer for our country, and for the nation, for the world. Let's just do Lo Yisagoy El Goy Cherev. We picture, we imagine, we use our power of sight in our mind's eye, in our heart, to imagine a world without war, where we do not need to raise up swords anymore. We don't learn the ways of war anymore. And Yuda Amichai added to that, let's beat our swords into plowshares and our plowshares into musical instruments. That way, if somebody wants to take up arms again, they have to make them into plowshares first and then swords out of them. So,
Amen, please.
Lo Yisagoy El Goy Erev, Lo Yisagoy El Goy Cherev, Lo Yilmedu Od Milchama, Lo Yilmedu Od Milchama, Lo Yisagoy El Goy Cherev, Lo Yilmedu Od Milchama. So last night we did a melody from of Ein Od, set to Aleinu. Repeat the phrase Ein Od, there is no other, right? No other moment like this moment, no other home, individual, communal sanctuary like this one. No other, nothing other than the divine. Ein Od milvado. Ein Od, 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 Ein Od. Aleinu l'shabeach. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם, נטע בתוכנו. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד.
So beautiful. Really, really beautiful. So our services always end with the Kaddish, because the past in Judaism is not the past. Remembrance, as Elie Wiesel says, it's the air that we breathe when we remember. And so now it's time to remember. Rabbi Jamie, I do have a list from our community. I don't know if you have a list of people whose Yortzites you're commemorating today and this week. But I'm going to place our list up first, and Ayala, if you'd read the names, and then Rabbi Jamie, if you've got a list of names that you want to read, that would just be wonderful. I've often thought that this list of names, even though most of us don't know who these people are, in some sense, the Kaddish list, it's the holiest prayer we've said all day. Just the names. Ayala?
So for those whose yahrzeit it is, Cecilia Meyerowitz Cohen, David Benjamin Citron, Maurice Greenblatt, Nathan Brownstein, Ray Schreiber, Rebecca Balinger, Robert Benbow, Stanley Cogan, Chaya Maltabat Nisan Aryeh, Esther Radel, Samuel Alper, Samuel Zaslow, Sarah Doris Meyerson, Erwin Klein, Morris David Stern, and for those who passed this year, Eleanor Harmon, Brooke Goling, Jonathan Gronot, Daphne Fautan, Roy Sadan, Chaim Yitzchak Menashe Ben Yona V'Yakov, Margarita Turkow, Michael Basin, Jay Horowitz, Laney Abbott, Kalman Novak, Rona Barnes, Ira Bushinsky, Marcy Gaon, Diane DeJack, Chris Cotton, Cantor Richard Kaplan, Janice Leitchen, Pam Goldstein Edelman, Alan Randall Zeev, Gerald Stern, David Markowitz, Carolyn Hamburger.
Alice Buckham.
My father, Marshall Gottlieb, Dr. Marshall Gottlieb, and my uncle, Lou Trackman, and I'm still not clear on whether I should observe them in first Adar or second Adar.
From the Beth Evergreen community.
See Abram, Bandina, Yitzchak, and Avery Scheidt, and Kieran Scheidt in the chat. And I'll just add the names Ron Lehman, Bob Davis, Lily Colacello, Jane Conrad, and Tony Haas, who passed away recently in our community.
I'm going to put the Mornis Kaddish on the screen. I know it's a little cacophonous on Zoom to hear all the voices, but I think in Mornis Kaddish, that cacophony becomes a form of its own jazz, its own beauty of memorial. So if you wish to say the Kaddish along with Ayala who lead us in it, that'd just be wonderful. You're invited to.
Yitkadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yamad divrei chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chai echon u'v'yom echon, u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman karev v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam v'amaya. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו
אמן.
יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא חיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן.
Amen. So to close our service today, Laura Berman will be chanting this beautiful chant by Menachem Creditor that he wrote after 9/11. And I'm just keeping it up there for a moment because the words are so, I'd rather us all see each other. Is that okay, Rabbi Jamie? Instead of keeping it on the screen, everybody can just memorize the words, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, I will build this world from love, you must build this world from love, and if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. So as you hear Laura Berman singing this so beautifully, Menachem Creditor was so moved by your rendition of it, Laura. So I'm going to take it off the screen. We can sing it together with you.
Olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed yibaneh. Olam chesed I will build this world from love. La, da, 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 you must build this world from love. La, da, da, if we build this world from love, oh God will build, oh God will build a world from love, from love. Olam chesed yibaneh. La, da, 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 da. Olam chesed yibaneh. La, da, 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 da. Olam chesed yibaneh. Ya, da, 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 da. Olam chesed yibaneh. Ya, da, da, I will build this world from love. Light, you must build this world from love. La, da, 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 and if we build this world from love, ya, da, 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 da,
Shabbat
Wow.
shalom.
Wow.
Shabbos.
Wow, Gadol. Beth Evergreen, thank you so much for hosting us today. I love your logo, because if everybody noticed, the N at the end of the word evergreen is a chai. So that's pretty cool. Really cool logo. Good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you, Laura Berman and Ayala and Rabbi Jamie. What a delight. I hope we could do this again. What a joy. And thank you for accommodating West Coast time zone. So I know this is a little late for your services, so we really appreciate that.
It's Jewish time. It crosses the time zones. And thank you too. I want to thank Elizabeth, who did our Zoom, and Laura, who in addition to singing like she does, also put together a lot of the slides for us. And really, again, blessed by the cross fertilization. And indeed, let's do this again soon. Shabbat shalom, friends. And thank you.
Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.